At 80 miles per hour, the new Lincoln MKX sails down the road as if it were built from 4,664 pounds of bubble wrap, fiberglass insulation, and cotton balls. Acoustically laminated glass, lined fender wells, and active noise cancellation create a cabin so quiet that even in a rush hour commute you can hear Matthew McConaughey's soft drawl over your shoulder. I've been driving a Lincoln since long before anyone paid me to drive one. I didn't do it to be cool. I didn't do it to make a statement. I just liked it. It's true, says the Oscar winner, worth somewhere around $75 million to $100 million. Now I have other cars, but I have driven a Lincoln and I now have a Lincoln in my driveway, McConaughey told real-life Crypt Keeper Larry King. We take that to mean he once commandeered a town car as part of an on-set prank, and his personal assistant now has a new, borrowed ride. No one is going to pay you to drive a Lincoln. To the contrary, at $63,275, our Lincoln MKX is priced as if the company has already completed the turnaround, made the comeback, and ascended to the top of the luxury field. The reserve model isn't even the top shelf of Lincoln's boozy trim levels. Order the MKX Black Label and you can nip at $70,000 with Venetian leather and hues named Ganache and Rouge Noir Purple's haughty cousin. With the new MKX and the New York Auto Show Continental concept, Lincoln proposes to turn left while everyone else in the business veers right. America's other luxury brand won't be lured into Cadillac's uphill battle against the sports-obsessed Germans. Instead, the 98-year-old automaker wants to channel its past, when a Lincoln was stately and confident, and performance was only incidental to the smooth V8 under the hood. Lincoln marketers call this experience quiet luxury, and we can confirm that it is far more soothing than the gas station-grade toilet paper of the same name. Seemingly unconcerned with the German marks, Lincoln has its sights on the Japanese, generally, and the Lexus RX, specifically. That's obvious not just in the marketing, but in everything from the way the MKX drives to the way you interact with it. Every new MKX wears adaptive dampers, but the shocks are only driver adjustable if you add four-wheel drive for $2,495. Even then, switching among comfort, normal, and sport modes requires spelunking deep into the instrument cluster menu where you assign a suspension setting to the transmission's drive and sport positions. That's the long-winded way of saying there is no fiddly rocker switch to relax the ride as you drive closer to Detroit proper. Instead, Lincoln hopes its customers set a preferred mode and forget about the driver-selectable function altogether. Or, more likely, buyers will drive their MKX in whatever mode is in effect when they take delivery. That's not necessarily a bad thing. The MKX covers ground with a pleasant, controlled softness in normal mode. The suspension damps out expansion joints and cracks while the body obediently follows the road. Accurate, nicely weighted steering with a solid sense of onset helps the MKX feel smaller and lighter than it is. Overall, the MKX embodies Lexus-like smoothness but with greater precision. If you find yourself torn between a BMW and an MKX, though, consult the DSM-5 for the appropriate diagnosis. A naturally aspirated 3.7-litre V6 comes standard. The $2,000 EcoBoost upgrade installs a twin-turbocharged mitre of an engine that makes 335 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque from 2.7 litres. You can buy the same hardware for $3,030 less in a Ford Edge Sport, but the Lincoln Premium adds software that's good for an additional 20 horsepower and 30 pound-feet. That's not enough, however, to compensate for its extra 200 pounds of opulence. The MKX clears 60 miles per hour in 6.0 seconds and strides past the quarter-mile mark in 14.5. The Edge accomplishes the same tasks in 5.6 and 14.2 seconds, respectively. It took 3 attempts with 2 different vehicles to produce our performance results. The first MKX ran roughly a half-second slower, then illuminated a transmission code and began to stumble at triple-digit speeds. Convinced that the turbocharged MKX was capable of better times, we returned to the track a week later with a second MKX to extract the figures that appear here. That second Lincoln made it through 4.5 runs before throwing a different transmission trouble code. A Lincoln rep attributed the hiccups to pre-production trivialities, which is difficult to swallow considering that dealers and customers were taking deliveries concurrently with our tests. The MKX never faltered on the road, however. Rather, it moved with a torque authority that suits the full-size weight of today's mid-size crossovers. The 6-speed transmission may be shy a couple of ratios, but it delivered fluid gear changes and never felt as if it was rushing to upshift. Almost miraculously, we averaged 20 miles per gallon, possibly making this the first time we've beaten the EPA combined rating 19 PQ with an EcoBoost engine. The MKX is surprisingly good to drive, but Lincoln's new ethos implies that the driving experience is to be minimized in order to maximize the experience of sitting in a cocoon. That explains why, even with a synthetic soundtrack piped through the speakers, the engine at full throttle sounds so far away that you might assume the deep burr is coming from the car ahead of you. It does a fine job at coddling, too. For $1,500, 22-way massaging front seats will knead your backside and conform to most body shapes. The outboard thigh bolster automatically deflates to ease egress and entry in a trick that insiders call the Lincoln Embrace, another great name for toilet paper. For the most part, the cabin is finished in convincingly upscale materials. Plush carpeting now wraps up the sides of the cargo hold where there were once slabs of plastic. But there are, literally, a few rough edges inside. Dip your hand deep enough into the door pockets or behind the grab handle on the door panel and you'll scrape against plastic flashing left over from the injection molding process. A high center console crowds the front seat occupants near them and creates awkward storage cubbies that have to be accessed from the side. The commodity plastic of the push-button gear selector provides the same sense of occasion as using an ATM, and our resident audiophile loathed the artificially punchy sound of the 19-speaker Revel Ultima audio system, part of a $4,400 luxury package. Ford's next-generation infotainment system, Sync 3, is nowhere to be found in the MKX, even though the company started hyping its impending arrival nearly a year ago. At least the 8-inch screen for my Lincoln Touch comes with a full complement of buttons and knobs for both the stereo and the climate system. The Ford-Lincoln engineering relationship still follows that of Chevrolet and GMC more closely than that of Volkswagen and Audi. Yet the tuning differences in the MKX finally deliver a significant character difference. Thanks to this Lincoln's sheet metal, sumptuous seats, detailed cockpit, memory foam ride, and ghostly quiet cabin, only those who are in the know will ever identify how much of the MKX is shared with the Edge. In recent decades, the only reason to drive a Lincoln was out of nostalgia for the brand's glory days. Take Larry King, who spoke with more authenticity when he told McConaughey in the same interview, "I've always driven Lincolns. I've just been a Lincoln guy." The MKX is a crossover both McConaughey and King will enjoy. In returning to its roots, Lincoln has created a vehicle that people can drive for its contemporary merits.